Chapter 9: Uneven Intelligence Distribution. When people talk about intelligence, they often speak as if it were a single trait, something a person either possesses in abundance or lacks entirely. In everyday conversation, someone may be described simply as smart or not very bright, as though the mind operates like a single dial that can be turned up or down. But human intelligence does not work that way. In reality, intelligence is unevenly distributed across different domains. A person may display extraordinary ability in one area while struggling in another. Someone might excel at mathematics yet find social situations confusing. Another person might read emotions and relationships with remarkable sensitivity but struggle with abstract reasoning or technical details. The human mind is less like a single engine and more like a collection of specialized tools. This uneven distribution often leads to misunderstanding. When we encounter someone performing poorly in a domain that feels obvious to us, we may assume they lack intelligence entirely. Yet the same person may possess strengths in areas we rarely notice or value. The mistake lies not in recognizing differences in ability, but in assuming that intelligence must be uniform across all aspects of life. Modern research in psychology and neuroscience suggests that cognitive abilities involve multiple systems working together. These systems support different skills: language, spatial reasoning, logical analysis, creativity, emotional awareness, physical coordination, and many others. Because these abilities develop through a combination of biology, education, environment, and personal interest, they rarely grow in perfect balance. A brilliant engineer might struggle to communicate ideas clearly to others. A gifted artist might find financial planning confusing. A skilled negotiator might feel lost when confronted with complex statistics. Each person carries a unique pattern of strengths and weaknesses, a patchwork of intelligence rather than a perfectly symmetrical design. Consider two colleagues working in the same company, David and Sophia. David is a software developer with an extraordinary ability to understand complex technical systems. He can examine thousands of lines of code and identify subtle errors that others overlook. When new software tools appear, he learns them quickly and begins experimenting with advanced features almost immediately. In technical meetings, David is often the most knowledgeable person in the room, but outside those discussions, he sometimes struggles. During team planning sessions, he finds it difficult to follow shifting conversations about schedules, budgets, and interpersonal concerns. When colleagues hint at subtle frustrations or unspoken expectations, he often misses the signals entirely. Sophia, on the other hand, works in project management. She does not write code and rarely understands the technical details of David's work. When developers begin discussing programming frameworks, she listens politely but feels lost within minutes. Yet Sophia possesses a different set of abilities. She notices tensions within the team before they escalate into conflict. She understands how different personalities respond to pressure and adjusts her communication accordingly. When disagreements arise, she helps people find common ground and keeps projects moving forward. One afternoon, the company faces a serious challenge. A major software update must be completed quickly, but the team is exhausted and communication has begun to break down. David identifies a critical bug that could have delayed the entire release. His technical insight saves the project from failure. Sophia then organizes the team, redistributes responsibilities, and mediates several disagreements that might otherwise have halted progress. By the end of the week, the project succeeds, not because one person was universally intelligent, but because different forms of intelligence worked together. Despite the obvious value of diverse abilities, societies often reward only certain forms of intelligence while overlooking others. Academic achievement, technical expertise, and analytical reasoning are frequently treated as the primary measures of intelligence. These abilities are undeniably important. They drive scientific discovery, technological innovation, and complex problem solving. But other forms of intelligence, emotional awareness, practical judgment, creative insight, social understanding, are just as essential for functioning communities. When these different abilities are not recognized, misunderstandings arise. People begin to underestimate those whose talents lie outside the narrow definitions they are accustomed to valuing. The result can be unnecessary division, resentment, and wasted potential. If intelligence truly exists in many forms, the question becomes how societies and individuals should respond to this reality. A practical commandment might be expressed in these words: respect the intelligence you do not personally possess. This principle encourages humility and curiosity. When someone demonstrates skill in an area we do not understand, the natural response becomes exploration rather than dismissal. Instead of thinking, that person isn't very smart, we begin asking a different question. What kind of intelligence might this person have that I do not? This shift in perspective can transform relationships and institutions. In workplaces, teams become more effective when different strengths are recognized and combined. In education, students develop confidence when their unique abilities are valued rather than compared against a single standard. In everyday life, people learn to appreciate perspectives that differ from their own. Imagine a society where intelligence was understood as a complex landscape rather than a simple hierarchy. Conversations would become less about proving superiority and more about sharing different forms of insight. The world's problems are rarely solved by one kind of mind alone. They are solved when many different minds, each with their own uneven pattern of strengths, learn how to think together.